Well, what do we have here? A little Zero Hedge article. Helicopter money is here. How the Fed monetized billions in debt, sold just days earlier. What? The Fed's charter prohibits it from directly purchasing bonds or bills issued by the U.S. Treasury. That process is also known as monetization, and various Fed chairs have repeatedly testified under oath to Congress that the Fed does not do it. Of course, the alternative is what is known as helicopter money, when the central bank directly purchases bonds issued by the Treasury and forms the backbone of the MMT monetary cult. But what if there is at, say, several day interval between Treasury issuance and subsequent purchase? Well, that's perfectly legal. Did you catch that? Let me read that again. But what if there is at a several day interview between the Treasury issuance and the subsequent purchase by the Fed? That is perfectly legal. And it's something the Fed has done not only during QE1, QE2, and QE3, again, stands for quantitative easing. It means money printing out of control. But is continuing to do now as part of its QE4, not QE. You know, the repo stuff. Oh, no, we're not. Here's how. On December 16th, the U.S. Treasury sold $36 billion in T-bills with a 182-day term, maturing on June 18th, 2020, with CUSIP SV2. And as shown in the Treasury Direct snapshot below, which I don't need to show you, I'll just tell you, of the total $34.3 billion in competitive purchases, dealers acquired $23.7 billion. What happened next? For the answer, we go to the Fed's POMO page, which shows which specific T-bill CUSIPs were purchased by its markets desk on any given POMO day, when dealers sell up to $7.5 billion in bills to the Fed. Exhibit 1. On December the 19th, just 3 days after the above T-bill was issued, and on the very day the issue settled, December 19th, dealers flipped the same bills they bought from the Treasury back to the Fed for an unknown markup. Specifically, of the $7.5 billion in total POMO, the SV2 CUSIP, which has been issued earlier that week, represented the biggest bond put, if you will, to the Fed, amounting to $3.9 billion, more than half of the total POMO on that day, and by far the most of any CUSIP sold to the New York Fed's markets desk on that day. But wait, there's some more. Exhibit www.exhibit2.com. Scotty Zibbit. Ladies and gentlemen of Missouri, let me show you Exhibit. Don't you love Dr. Evil, Austin Powers? Anyways, Exhibit 2. During the next POMO conducted the very next day, on December the 20th, and just 4 days after the issuance of T-bill SV2, which, as a reminder, saw $23.7 billion in dealer purchase, those same dealers flipped more of the same bills they, quote-unquote, bought from the Treasury back to the Fed. Why? To once again pocket the unspecific markup the Fed generously provided to them, just because they are, well, dealers. Of course, of the $7.5 billion in total POMO held on December 20th, the SV2 CUSIP once again represented the single biggest bond put, if you will, to the Fed, amounting to $1.6 billion, the most of any CUSIP sold to the New York Fed's markets desk on that day. So what's going on? Well, for all those saying the U.S. may soon unleash helicopter money and or MMT, we have some news. Helicopter money is already here, and the Fed is now actively monetizing debt the Treasury sold just days earlier using the dealers as a conduit. A conduit which is generously rewarded by the Fed's market desk with its marked up purchase price. In other words, the Fed is already conducting helicopter money in MMT in all but name. We're not doing that. We're not buying treasuries that the Treasury Department puts out Again, they put out the treasuries in a certain number amount. They need to borrow that money, so the Fed has to print the money. But the Fed is not allowed to go right to the treasury and say, okay, you got 20 billion in bonds, we'll take them right now. And then we'll give you the money. No. It's got to go open for bid to the quote-unquote dealers. So the dealers step in, oh, we'll buy all that. We'll take it. Thanks. We'll take it. And then immediately, within a day or two, sell it back to the Fed. And the Fed not only says, oh, we'll buy that from you, we'll give you a bonus. Quote-unquote an interest payment, if you will. We'll give you what you need plus a little extra. So basically, the bank buys this, nothing, turns around, immediately sells it to the Fed. The Fed is doing what they said their charter is not allowed to do. Well, we're not. We're not doing that. There's a middleman. The dealers, they're doing it, and then we buy it directly from them. And it costs the taxpayers more, essentially, because we're giving them a little extra bonus. So more money is being printed than needed. See how that works? It's almost hard to believe. So, as shown above, the Fed monetized T-bills that were issued just 3 days earlier, and just because it is circumventing the one hurdle that prevents it from directly purchasing securities sold outright by the Treasury, the Fed is providing the dealers that made this legal debt circle jerk possible with millions in profits, even as the outcome is identical, if merely offset by just a few days. Perhaps during Fed Chair Powell's next congressional hearings, someone actually has the guts to ask the only question that matters. Why is the Fed now monetizing U.S. debt and pretending it isn't doing so just because it grants these dealers a 3-day holding period for which it then rewards them generously? Hold this money for you, right? We need you to spend billions, but you're going to earn millions in 3 days. How would you like to have enough money in your back pocket or in your bank account where you could do this and then basically, oh, I just got to sit on it for 3 days? Yeah, it's a 3-day loan. Look at it as a 3-day loan. You're going to buy this at this price. 3 days later, you're going to sell it to us, and we're going to give you interest every single time. No questions asked. There's no such thing as a depreciating asset. You're going to have it for 3 days, and you will always get rewarded. And again, the small amount, percentage-wise, is still millions of dollars going right into the bank's back pocket just for doing nothing. Hey, can you hold that for me? Yeah, I'll hold it for 3 days. Here you go. Boom. Give me my millions. Because the Fed isn't allowed to just directly go to the Treasury. This is the same damn thing. This is the same damn thing. And it's almost, not really, but almost hard to believe. Take care.